Hi, you're listening to Unshackled, Born into Silence. There are stories that live in silence, stories buried beneath hymns, behind closed doors, inside the hearts of those who were never allowed to speak. I was raised in a world where obedience was survival, questioning was rebellion, where music was both forbidden and sacred. At 17, I was excommunicated, cast out, not just from a church, but from my family, my community, my entire identity. This is my story, not to shame, not to destroy, but to reclaim. For anyone who's ever been silenced, shunned, or told they were too much, this is for you. My name is Kevin, and this is Unshackled. Hi friends and neighbors, glad you stopped by. This is episode 4 called Exile at 17.
Let's start at the beginning. How did you and your siblings get involved with the family band?
My brother and sister and I were asked to join a family band connected to the church. The original members, the children of the parents who ran the band, had grown up, and so they brought us in to, I guess, continue the mission. The band received grants, or I guess you could call it grants, different funding for this mission. We got money for doing recording and for practicing and all that kind of stuff. I mean, we didn't personally get paid, but the family did. And we had our first show. I remember it being very busy leading up to Christmas. We had a bunch of practicing going on. And then we also recorded an album. And then might have been New Year's Day or the day after, we did a show at our home church. And then from there it was, we started going out west and then south.
Who gave you the money?
The church. Yeah, the money came from the church. I guess they pretty much were funding the mission.
What was that tour like?
I remember we started in southern Alberta, a small town called Burdett, in a community hall. And then we crossed into U.S. across the Coots border into Montana. I'd never been in that part of the U.S. before, which was pretty cool to me, going through some of the mountains, and just the scenery was unbelievable. We traveled all the way to Mexico in, I think, just 3 days, crammed into a minivan, and I remember a small Nissan Sentra standard manual transmission. That was fun. The mountains in northern Mexico were gnarly. The whole journey was just unforgettable. We played almost for every day for 3 weeks, sometimes in barns, machine shops, community halls. One show had nearly 1,000 people, or maybe just over, I can't remember. It was a lot of people. I was nervous. I was only 15 at this time, but it was also the most fun I've ever had. We got to go climb a mountain and do all kinds of cool stuff that I've never experienced before. And we met some incredible people trying to change their communities for the better.
Were there challenges along the way?
Definitely a lot of challenges. There was a strict rule, no negativity, and but one night I got frustrated with the terrible sound in one of these big boomy metal rooms. It was just a big metal building, and I kind of was trying to make a joke about buying out the insulation from a store somewhere and trying to fix this problem. And that comment wasn't taken lightly. I got chewed out, but that's how it goes. And then there were darker moments early in the tour. I remember we saw a Mennonite man beating his wife and child in the street just right in town. It was a pretty sad situation, but unfortunately too common in those places. Later that night, we played in a colony where they forbade the music, and we just set up in a garage on a farm. But I remember the youth of the community was out by the street, like on the street. The driveway was pretty long, and while we were playing, there was just so much noise, hollering and yelling and protesting the whole show, trying to disrupt us from doing our thing. And it was pretty confusing, to see that where they preach, such acceptance and all that, and how much hatred and judgment we received in those communities.
How did those experiences affect you internally?
They stirred something I didn't fully understand at the time. I was already living with abuse at home, normalized by the community, seeing violence and hypocrisy outside of that community only deepened the confusion. Felt pretty broken and numb, and eventually that numbness turned into anger and then rage.
Tell me about the moment you decided to leave.
So after that tour ended, things started to kind of unravel. I'll never forget. I was working in a pig barn, squeegeeing pig manure, and when it hit me, I was just a light bulb moment. I realized I have the power to leave, and I thought others have left, probably younger than I have, from their families or communities where it was pretty rough, and they survived. So I figured I could figure it out too. That realization was pretty liberating.
What happened after that decision?
Well, I started hanging out with other outcasts from the community. On weekends, I'd disappear without telling anyone. I'd ride my bicycle somewhere miles away and meet one of the friends, and he'd pick me up, and then I would go to town and buy booze and some cigarettes and go party somewhere. We were always trying to do something fun other than be at home. Anything to, numb the pain that I was feeling. My parents were definitely frantic and wondering what was happening, but I was spiraling out of control. The pastors noticed. One demanded I sit in his truck and explain myself, and then another forced me to pretty much pray with him. Eventually, they pressured me into coming to brotherhood meeting, they called it, and they pretty much forced me to make an apology. And I did it because I was in survival mode, I guess. They call it fawning, trying to keep the peace. It was definitely all a fake thing that I just did to make them all happy.
Did anyone recognize the abuse that you were living through?
No. The pastors grilled me about my childhood, wondering if what had happened was Dad, an angry person. Had he done bad things to us? They were definitely trying to figure out what was happening, but they, you know, what it really was the abuse that was happening right under their noses. And I didn't even know it back then. It was just so normalized in the community that I thought it was just part of growing up.
What was the breaking point with your family?
I bought a TV, and that was a big no-no in my family. My dad did not like it. So buying the TV in of itself was pretty crazy because I didn't have much money. We were only allowed to keep $1 an hour from our wages that we were working at our jobs, and that would last till we were married or pretty much 21 years old, I think. And my dad just told me either the TV goes or we both go. I said, okay, then we both go. And I thought it was pretty comical. And then I told him I was moving out. His first words were, so you're actually leaving and you're just going to keep all your own money.
How did the church respond?
Well, they excommunicated me. A co-worker from the pig barn hand-delivered the letter to my job, and then my boss gave me the letter. I took the letter out of the envelope and I laughed, and then I crumpled it up and threw it straight in the garbage. But then, the anger set in. I wasn't allowed to sit with my parents or communicate with them, really. I was supposed to feel the wrath of the church coming against me, I guess. And I was shunned completely. My parents eventually softened. They couldn't bear cutting ties with their own child. They just couldn't do it. But the rest of the community, like my friends, my support system, everything was gone.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's a reminder that breaking free often comes at a cost, but it also opens the door to healing, identity, and hope.
Dear 17-year-old Kevin, I see you. 17 years old, standing in that barn, squeegee in hand, exhausted, angry, numb. You've carried abuse in silence for years, and everyone around you tells you this is normal. But it isn't. You are not broken. You are not wrong for wanting freedom. That spark inside you, the one whispering, I can leave, is real, and it will carry you through. I know you're afraid. You'll be shunned, called selfish, rebellious, unworthy. But those voices are lies. The truth is, you are brave. You are resilient. You are worthy of love, safety, and joy. I know you've learned to fawn, to apologize, to keep the peace, but deep down, you know you cannot stay in a place that crushes your spirit. Choosing yourself is not betrayal, it's liberation. There will be nights of loneliness, moments of rage, times when numbness feels easier than hope, but keep walking. Every step away from that barn, that community, that silence, is a step toward healing. One day you'll look back and see that this decision, made at 17, was the beginning of reclaiming your life. You'll find people who accept you, experiences that bring joy, and a strength you didn't know you had. So hold on, trust that inner voice. You are not alone, even when it feels like it. And remember, freedom is worth the cost. Love, present Kevin.